Alright, hi guys, my name is Spilo, and this is episode 7 of the First Fight concept series, where we go over a professional Overwatch map, the first fight in a round, the first fight in a map, and discuss why the fight ended up the way it did, the good things and the bad things that happened, and we pull a concept away from it that we can apply in our own understanding of the game of Overwatch, not just at the professional level. So today we're going to be going back to Overwatch League, away from the Chinese contender scene, now that stage 1 is concluded and stage 2 has started, and we're going to be looking at the San Francisco Shock versus the Guangzhou Charge. Now, really quickly here, before we actually get into the concept that I want to go over, is I'm going to actually prop up another really great content creator, Sideshow. You may have heard of him. When he was in his visa hell, he released a really good video on how NYXL did a good job dealing with the Outlaws Rhine Goats rotation. So the NYXL here, when you're running Winston Goats in this map, you put your backline. I'm just going to pull up Epic Pen for this really quickly here. So get there. So you've got your backline. Let me skip forward. So your backline of the NYXL is up here, right? And the Outlaws have to clear out that backline. Otherwise, if they just go straight to point as Rhine Goats, then they're going to get spammed out by the high ground advantage the Winston can drop without using leap and jump back out. So they kind of have to clear out this high ground first before they go to point. So they have to rotate all the way around there. And in the meantime, we've got the NYXL here who's going to be spamming them, spam. But most importantly, Mono is going to be kind of sitting at all these little corners and just building Primal. And if they commit on Mono, he just jumps away to high ground. So he's going to be trying building Primal. So when the Outlaws do clear out this high ground and then drop to point, he'll have Primal to be able to stall it out easily and disrupt what the Hoots and Outlaws is trying to do. But what's even more important is that even though the NYXL are on high ground here, the second that high ground gets contested, the New York Excelsior, I'm going to wait just a second, they properly drop their backline, who then rotates upstairs across the bridge here and pops up on this little high ground here. So they actually rotate so that even though they're forced out, they're still in a decent position. You can see that right, wait for it, 3, 2, 1, there. So this is where the backline has rotated to. So they kind of did this rotation right through there. So that's kind of, I guess, that's kind of been how it's been played from what we've seen, it at least played properly. But the problem with developing a meta, or at least a quote-unquote only proper way of playing things, is it starts to make you predictable with what you want to accomplish. So we've seen that from the NYXL here, and it worked out really well, and congratulations to them, they did a good job with it. But now everybody knows that's kind of how teams like to play that point. They keep the supports on high ground, and then they rotate them around to the other side. So now the question is what do you do when you beat that? So I'm going to skip my scene over, and then we're going to talk about the San Francisco Shock. Now, in my personal opinion, the San Francisco Shock are one of the best coach teams in Overwatch League right now. I'm not going to get into that discussion. That's not the point of this video. And also, in a similar note, I'm not really going to discuss why Baptiste is being run here, because it's too soon. Not only from my own understanding, but from things that I know about this composition that are like competitively being figured out right now, and I don't want to expose anything that might hurt my team's current success and contenders. So I'm going to ignore that for the most part, but I'm going to talk more about what play is being executed here. So the Shock are also running Rhine Goats, and the Charge are running Winston Goats. So we can kind of expect the same type of rotation, clearing out this way. You can see the Guangzhou Charge's backline is frantically running up to high ground here. I think they were here in anticipation of the Shock maybe pathing this way and then pouncing on them. So then they're sped the backline up to high ground. Once they realize that that's not the case, you're going to be seeing Rio trying to build a little bit of ult charge. Is he? I don't know where Rio is. There he is. Okay. So Rio's going to be building ult charge here. And then we're going to see the Shock path up to high ground, claim the high ground from the Charge's backline, who's going to drop and rotate across the bridge. And then there we go. Right? Wrong. Watch carefully.
A little bit of displacement knocking Rio off there as Shock continues to move forward. Rascal.
Sneaky. So we've got the core of Shock moving up to high ground. So this would be Reinhardt, Zarya, and Lucio, who's being sped to high ground, baiting the Charge into thinking that, oh, we're claiming high ground for you guys. You guys better back out. You guys better drop, right? But in reality, we've got the Baptiste, the Zenyatta, and the Diva waiting right here. So once they just drop off, then you've got pincer play from the high ground Shock core of these three heroes, and then the pincer of the Zenyatta, Diva, and Baptiste. So they catch the Charge in rotation. Watch this. They don't even know they're there. Kim has no idea that they're there. And Shu, look at Shu. You guys can see Shu right there. Completely caught off guard. Shu doesn't know where to go. Shu has to drop, and now Shu is literally frontlining into everything that the Shock has to throw at them, and he ends up getting picked. So awkward rotation gets picked off, and the best thing about this is even if they don't get the elimination on Shu, they've already won the fight, because now the backline of the Charge is on the low ground, which means the Shock at this point just have to hold mouse 1 and walk forward. So even if Shu doesn't get picked now, he's gonna die within 2 or 3 seconds. They're screwed. The whole point is, like, you want to make this as painful as possible for the Rhine Ghosts to push into you, and they no longer have high ground. You've got your supports on the low ground, and your Winston still does not have primal. That is literally worst case scenario in this situation. So even if it wasn't like, oh, Sinatra landed a nice right click, no, it's over. The fight's over. They've already lost it. Now, the concept we're talking about is scouting, because it's crucial to understand why this play worked. So if we skip back a little bit, like this is actually perfect, right? Just a couple seconds. So you've got your D.Va, Zen, and Baptiste here, right? Okay. So right here, this is very important. If the Charge scout that only 3 members of the Shock are right here, then one of 2 things happens. Either the Charge ignores this clump and charges here and kills the Zen, Baptiste, whatever, right? Or the easier option is they scout, oh, there's only 3 players up here. We're just going to keep Shu, and we're going to keep Shara, and we're going to keep Kib up here, and we're going to stuff them right at this choke and kill these guys. And they're not going to be able to, we're not going to give up this choke until you prove to us, Shock, that you have the manpower to push through this. Because so far you've only got 3 people here when you should have 6. You're not pushing through this choke. No way, Jose. It's not happening. You can send your Zenyatta. Well, I don't know if you want to send your Zenyatta. You can put Zenyatta in the edge. Your Brig jams corner. Your Winston cleaves. Your Zarya sweeps. Like, there's no way that 3 members of the Shock are going to get through this choke. So the key thing here is that the Charge didn't actually have to drop, and this is important, if they had scouted that that's what the Shock were doing. They thought the core of the Shock were pushing up, but they were not. And the reason that they didn't know that is because their scouting failed. Now I'm going to go back and we're going to talk about how the scouting failed, because just simply saying the scouting failed, that's not good enough. Okay? So we're going to skip here. You can see Rio here. Now Hotba is going to be coming off on the left of our screen. Where is he? He is somewhere on our left. So I'm trying to see where he is. Yeah, Hotba's down here. Yeah, so you can see Hotba right out of the corner of your screen. This is Hotba's job. And now that this has happened once, this should never catch the Charge off guard again. The Hotba should always be in this position, tailing them just behind to make sure that all 6 of them go here. So Hotba doesn't scout this. I'm trying to see where Hotba actually goes. We should see momentarily. So yeah, Hotba is already on high ground. I don't know if you guys can see that outline here, but Hotba is already transitioned to high ground. So he has not provided the proper scouting information. This is them thinking, oh, we already know what's going to happen. But when they try and anticipate what's going to happen without actually looking with their eyes, without actually scouting, that just completely sets them up for this pincer play. And it's over. Like, at this point, it's already over. So Hotba fails his team in terms of scouting, and that's it. Like, that basically sets up the Shock's play. And this is a designated play, 100%. No question about it. And to me, this again just tells me that how impressive Krusty is as a coach, at least from what we've seen. And I really look forward to seeing the San Francisco Shock achieve a lot of success with cool stuff like this in the future. Okay, that being said, let's reel this back in. We need to ask ourselves, how is this actually applicable in terms of your own competitive games? Because, you know, that was a really cool advanced play that was drawn up and, you know, by the San Francisco Shock that punished the lack of scouting by the Charge, right? So the question is then how do I improve my own scouting? Because that sort of play is never going to happen in the competitive ladder at any rank, right? At least very, very, very unlikely that that's going to happen. So how is this concept something that I can learn from? Well, we have to understand that scouting provides the information necessary. I have the answer written here. Provides the information necessary so that you can make the best decisions. You could be the best strategic caller in the world, but if you have no scouting information, your ability to make planning is almost useless. So like you could think they're like the Charge, maybe they had some big brain rotational strategy that we've never seen before that would have crushed any team, any Rhine Goat team trying to push up through there. Like they rotate to high ground, and then they jump, and then they pencil. Like, but it didn't matter because they didn't scout, and because they didn't scout, everything fell apart. If you aren't anticipating, or if you aren't scouting out threats to you and your team, then you're putting yourself at the disadvantage. Like on an individual level, okay? Tanks. Here's an example of how you could use scouting. Tell your team where the enemy Widow is, okay? Now, again, you join voice chat, you guys, hey, Widow back left, right? Now, you may not have a Widow that can deal with that Widow, but that scouting allows your team, and even at an individual level, allows your Zenyatta, allows your McCree, allows your Zarya to adjust their positioning in the way that they play that point to better mitigate that Widow. So your scouting communicated to your team allows your team to achieve better success here. As a DPS player, call where the flankers are rotating to. So if you're playing Soldier and you see Tracer flanking around left side, right? You go, hey, Tracer coming around behind left. Well, then your Zenyatta goes, oh, shoot, I better get near a health pack. I better get near a corner. You may save your flex support's life, not even by actively directly helping him, by giving him scouting information that he can capitalize off of. And then for a support player, okay, you see Winston. He's staging off to the right side. He looks like he's going to be diving on your Widow. Yo, Winston behind. Be careful, Widow, right? And then your Widow makes sure that she saves grapple, or that, you know, she's aware of the Winston, so is better able to react to whatever action that he may take. So at like an individual level, okay, so the individual level, there's a lot of opportunities to apply it, even if you're not 100% sure that your team's going to capitalize off of it. Because the thing is, yeah, you might call something out a million times in a competitive game and nobody follows your directions or nobody listens. Maybe you're careful, there's a flanker behind and your Zen dies the flanker anyway. That's a realistic possibility. But you're giving it, the more information that you provide your team, whether they actually benefit from it or whether they act on it, or not, overall, they're going to benefit from it. And more importantly, especially if you're moving towards getting more into competitive Overwatch, maybe you'll join a team, maybe you'll get involved in scrims. Being able to scout and being able to communicate your scouting information is something that's going to be used more and more the higher up you go in the competitive ladder, outside of ranked. So in other words, if you're join a team, scouting is a lot more important. You join a better team, scouting is even more important. And if you could start training those things in comp, even though maybe you don't find as much success out of it because nobody listens, maybe nobody's in voice chat, if you start practicing those things, make those call outs, right, as a main tank, as a support, as a DPS, anybody can do it, and everybody should do it, then you're training an aspect of your Overwatch gameplay that can help you outside of ranked. And I know not everybody enjoys getting into scrimmages, but like if you understand that game of Overwatch is not just about, oh, I have to win every single individual game, but I have different aspects of my gameplay that I can improve on. Scouting is definitely one of those aspects that you can improve on, and it just comes based off of communication to your team. It allows your team to get the information that they need to make a play at either a team macro level or at an individual micro level. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord, link in the description, and direct message me. Have a wonderful day.